Ministers from Australia, Japan, India and the United States met here in Delhi to reaffirm their commitment to keeping the Indo-Pacific free and fair. You had this meeting that was chaired by India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Australia's Foreign Minister were both present. And interestingly, Japan's Foreign Minister, who skipped Thursday's G20 summit, also arrived in the early hours of Friday to attend the Quad meeting. The group, which has often been criticized by Beijing for being an anti-China alliance, also reiterated that this is not a military grouping, but reminded China that the country needs to abide by international norms. The group's joint statement indirectly also criticized Beijing for increasing tensions in the South China Sea. Antony Blinken, who lashed out at Russia yesterday after the G20 summit where he met with Sergey Lavrov briefly, took a far more measured tone on Moscow today. He said if the world allows Russia to do what it wants in Ukraine today, it sends out a message to other aggressors that they may be able to get away with it too. He warned that Russia cannot be allowed to wage war with impunity and that Moscow's threat of using nuclear weapons in Ukraine is inadmissible. But where India failed to build consensus among G20 nations, it managed to find some success at the Quad. The joint statement released by the Quad was unanimous in its condemnation of the human suffering in Ukraine and called for a lasting peace in the region, but it used the word conflict instead of war, and Russia was not named. India has long-standing historic ties with Moscow and has continued its engagement with Russia even after the war, buying more and more discounted oil and ramping up trade. It's also pitched itself as a mediator with access to both the West and Russia. But critics warn that even though India is critical to the West's plan of countering China's growing dominance in the Indo-Pacific, it may not have the same kind of success at the G20 and that India will really struggle to get the US and its allies to tone down their criticism of Russia, and that any kind of negotiation that New Delhi may want to broker may be next to impossible now. Neha, Poonia, SABC News, New Delhi.